Rahela, 13 years old. She's determined to have a career.
What do you want to do when you get older?
I want to be a doctor.
Rahela's school is in a remote rural area, 2 hours walk each way for some pupils. Only half of Afghanistan's children go to school, but that's 6 times more than during the Taliban years. A third are girls. A real improvement, but only 5% of them are able to finish their secondary education. The government's built thousands of new schools, but there aren't enough women teachers, and the Taliban is still destroying buildings and threatening staff. This was one of 3 girls' schools in the area attacked with poison gas earlier this year. 120 pupils and teachers collapsed during assembly and were taken to hospital.
And how did you feel? Your head or your legs? Yeah.
After the attack, Rahela and her sisters went back to school, determined to have a different life from their mother. The oldest girl is 21. The Taliban years delayed her education and she's still at school. She wants to be a teacher, but the college is miles away and it's not safe to walk there. Rahela says she won't let her culture stand in her way.
I want to help our people, be a doctor and treat them.
Do you think, though, that you will have to get married? It may be difficult to stay at school?
My husband must allow me to be a doctor, because I want to be one. We girls have worked hard, and we must become something.
But what is the future for girls in Afghanistan? What about their security and their president's promise to improve their lives? Fawzia, Member of Parliament and mother.
Unfortunately, it's like a step forward and hundreds of steps back.
When democracy was established, Fawzia was elected to Parliament, part of a constitutional quota of 37% women, more than Westminster. But they've struggled to be heard. One's even in hiding in fear of her life. Fawzia comes from a political family, but women were more respected when her father was here in the 60s.
You see how different they look in terms of their appearance. And you see my father also here. This is an alphabet.
When the Taliban was defeated and Fawzia won her seat, she hoped women's lives would change.
So who is this? Sayaf, Professor Sayaf.
But the picture gallery of today's MPs reveals what Fawzia is up against. Warlords, even people once close to Al-Qaeda.
When it comes to the women's rights, they're all, they don't want to see us sitting in the parliament. Unfortunately, at this time, I don't think the whole system believes anymore in the woman progress. Among all these candidates, we are having presidential election ahead of us. The major one, the front runner ones, there is still no talks with a woman.
Fawzia and her daughters have just returned from visiting her remote and impoverished constituency. Britain has given £750 million in aid to Afghanistan, much of it targeted at women. But Fawzia believes the West backs off when it comes to challenging cultural prejudice and holding Karzai's government to account.
The international community also try to make the man leader politicians happy, not their own beliefs.
So are you saying the international community is just paying lip service to helping women here? They're not spending our money, European money, taxpayers' money, wisely?
No, unfortunately. The money is not spent efficiently to the needy population, which is women and children.
The West still protects and underwrites the government of the man it brought to power 7 years ago. But its leaders privately admit Hamid Karzai has been weak, his government corrupt. This year, to strengthen his own position, he signed a law that critics said would legalize rape in marriage within the Shia community. Embarrassed, the West forced him to take out some, but not all, the offending clauses. Mr. Karzai is still the favourite to be re-elected.
I think President and his team is now surrounded and more relied by a group of conservatives, that they have their own way and interpretation of Islam, and he basically relies on them when it comes to some of the decisions.
The president's failed to enforce human rights and equality for women. So perhaps it's not surprising to discover that one of Afghanistan's invisible women is his own wife. Hamid Karzai is a doctor. She worked during the Taliban years, abroad. Shahida, women's campaigner. She's from the same town as Mrs. Karzai and has known her for years.
I asked her why she doesn't appear with her partner, the independent president of Afghanistan. You're his wife, I said, educated, a doctor. You should help women.
Mr. Karzai is campaigning at a women's conference without his first lady. She's almost never seen in public and doesn't speak out. We wanted to ask him why, talk to him about the problems women have in his country. But he wasn't available for an interview.
I'd like to assure you the president's wife is currently playing a big role in society. I meet her on a monthly basis, take her advice and talk to her about our problems and difficulties. I went to their home to find out for myself the truth about why she doesn't come out. Her answer to me was, "My husband doesn't like it. I cannot go out without his permission."
Why don't we see her taking an active role, and what does that actually mean?
Well, I believe all of our leaders want democracy for their neighbors, not for themselves. What it means is that they all talk of democracy politically and woman participation and all this progress that has been made in the past 7 years. But when you ask why your family cannot be a role model themselves, then that's the question, that democracy is for our neighbors, not for us.
After all the money poured into Afghanistan, all the British lives, the UK government is now talking about negotiations with the so-called moderate Taliban. That alarms women here.
Our values that you, international community, invested, spent your life, spent your money in this country to help us create some values shouldn't be undermined, and our constitution shouldn't be undermined.